Doll customization may not be appropriate for children without the assistance of an adult. These are creative works made by experienced artists using toxic materials and potentially hazardous tools. These include chemical aerosols, knives and razors, cutting tools, skin and eye irritants, such as clays, glues, and acetone, and especially paints and glosses, indicated to contain carcinogens. Please read all warning, instructive, and cautionary material thoroughly before using these products. Viewer discretion is advised. Do not allow your children to emulate these projects without adult supervision.
Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel.
Last June, I participated in Dollmotion's first Divus collaboration for all her Patreons. This doll was a big ambition for a newbie like me, but I couldn't pass up this opportunity. This doll has many body modifications, so I hope you're ready, and let's get started.
Without further ado, let's get artistic and see what comes from my mind today.
Taking a Katrine Demue doll from Monster High, I remove the arms and use my hand drill to drill a hole perpendicular to the shoulder. Next, I take some wire and make 2 hooks. Taking a thicker wire, I put it into the holes I drilled and catch the hook before putting the wire through the other hole. Taking some super glue, I drop a little at the ends of the wires to secure them in place. Next, take the body you're going to use. This footage shows a Spectra body, but I switched to another Katrine later on. As I mentioned in my speed paint video, I see the chest on the doll's body as the thorax of the moth and position the second pair of arms just below the ribcage. Mark with a marker where you want to make the holes. Take a drill and drill through the markings. If your doll is like mine, the majority of the torso is hollow, so it won't take much to get all the way through. Make sure to test the placement and see if your hole is big enough. To do this, take a small elastic, hook one part on the first arm, then put an embroidery thread around it, and put the other end of the embroidery thread in a needle. And feed the needle through the hole you just made and pull the thread until the elastic comes through, and then hook onto the other arm. You may have to adjust the length of the elastic to make the fit tighter. It was around this point that I decided to switch dolls. I used some clay to close up the shoulders a little more to make it look more like the second pair of arms are supposed to be where they are. Once the clay is dry and painted, I use soft pastels to blush the body with light blue. I dust the knees, ankles, and toes, as well as shoulders and cleavage area. Pretty much anywhere there's natural curvature of the body is where blushing should be. Make sure to bend the joints and get the pastels into all of the crevices. Use a kneaded eraser to fix any mistakes and take away some stray pastel dust. Once you're done, spray the body with Mr. Super Clear UV Cut Flat and put her somewhere safe to dry for 30 minutes. Now on to the face. For the face, I used a Luna Matthews doll head because she has big sculpted eyes and the holes for the antenna are already there. To ready the head for customization, I use a pair of sharp scissors to cut the hair as close to the scalp as possible. Then I use a cuticle pusher to scrape the glue and leftover hair chunks and use pliers to pull them out of the neck hole. Once the hair is removed, I use 100% acetone to remove the factory paint from the face and painted scalp. Since this is a Dollmotion type of doll, I remove the factory ears and nose from the face with an X-Acto knife. Then, using my 2-part epoxy sculpt, I start sculpting the new nose. Now, moths don't really have noses, but I didn't want to leave the humanoid nose since it would be a violation of the rules of Dollmotion's Divus universe, so I sculpted a little, almost rabbit-like nose. The first pass of epoxy is to cover the cut-off nose area, and the next is to make cosmetic sculpting. I use silicone tools to shape the nose, as well as water and my fingers to smooth the transition between epoxy and plastic. The first pass of epoxy kind of makes her look like Voldemort from Harry Potter, but the next pass makes her look a little more cute. After the first layer of epoxy dries, I use another layer to refine details and smooth it into the plastic as best I can so sanding won't take too long. And here she is! Not too bad for my first face modification if I do say so. Next, it's time to paint the face and body mods. I use my trusty airbrush to paint the face, arms, and the body into a nice matte white. Then I use the Myungo soft pastels again to blush the face with light blue on her temples, nose, and a little on her forehead. I also use pink to start her eyebrows and blush her on her cheeks. Don't forget that kneaded eraser to fix any mistakes early on. After I blush the face, I go in with my watercolor pencils and start sketching the face. I use a lighter color to start with so it's easier to fix any mistakes. I sketch in the eyes and eyebrows as well as the irises and pupils of the eyes. I use a dark blue for the eyelashes and then go in with black later on.
Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel.
After a little bit of blushing with pastels, the first layer is done. I spray the face with Mrs. Super Clear and wait 30 minutes for it to dry before starting with the next layer. I start adding acrylic paint pretty early because the color buildup isn't taking as long as it usually does. I paint the pupils with blue flash color shift paint to bring dimension into the eyes, and I do the same thing with the irises using red flash. I use pink and purple colors for the bottom lip and black for the eyelashes. The last thing I do is use white paints to add big and small dots to the eyes to bring them to life and give her a cute expression. Next, I take both pairs of her hands and paint fingerless gloves with several layers of watered down acrylic paint. I didn't film this part, but I added yarn wefts on her wrists and ankles to add more fluff to her design. Now it's time for the hair. I decided to use acrylic yarn for the hair simply because it's more fluffy that way. I cut both white and pink strands to the length I want them, then start unraveling the yarn for thinner pieces. Now I have a big old pile of fluff. Taking some of the yarn, I tie them to a hoop where I combed and straightened them into wefts. I I then used some of these wefts for the ankle and wrist fluff, while the others were used as the bangs of the hair. I got the idea of using a plastic palette knife to spread the glue onto the hair from the YouTuber Lamancy, and it works great. This is where tragedy struck. As I was rerouting the hair, the epoxy on her face cracked. I was able to semi-fix it with some super glue and more blushing, but she never looked quite as cute to me. Lesson learned, do hair, then face up. Anyway, after the rerouting part is done, I take the yarn wefts I prepared earlier and glue it to her scalp with tacky glue. Next, take a couple of white feathers and brush them with soft pastels to change the color orange. The pastels also clumped the fibers and really made them look like antennae. I style the hair with a soft brush and spray bottle, then cut it to the look I want. I'm not a hairstylist, so I didn't do that great of a job, but I like her the way she is. To add more shimmer on her face, I add Pearl X micro glitter to her whole face. I want her face to look like it's been bathed in moonlight. I use silver and blue for a variety of shimmer. Up next is the wings. I printed out this template for size reference and used strong but flexible wire to shape the wings. I loosely used Dollightful's Amanita video as a guide tool on how to make and attach the wings. I make a loop at the end of the wire frame of each wing segment to use as an anchor point for the screws to hold onto before I place them in the back of the body. The hair will cover up the ugly bits. With the snap of my fingers, the wire structures are done. The next thing I do is cut pieces of white felt, 2 pieces for each wing segment. I sew one piece on one side of the armature using a whip stitch. Next, I glue the other half of the wing part to the sewn armature piece. After the glue is dry, I take a gray marker and draw the line work. Then I use soft pastels to add dimension and color. Now it's time to attach the wings to the body. I use my hand drill and make a couple of holes on the shoulder blades. This was a bad idea because I accidentally hindered the movement of the top pairs of arms. Oops. Anyway, I make 2 loops out of wire and glue them into the holes. Next, I took 2 small bolts and screwed the wings into the back. I then used tight lock to keep the bolts from loosening. Okay, I'm almost done. The last thing I need to make is the clothes. Using a pants pattern I made from Monster High clothes, I made the capris. I cut the fabric and sew at the back first. Before I sew the pants again, I add a yellow lining to the waist and cuffs. I realized I made the pants a little too long, so I had to cut off the legs and remake the cuffs. Pro tip: always test your clothes on your doll before you finish making them to make sure they fit the way they're supposed to. After the pants were done, I took a jacket pattern and cut out the pieces from the same fabric as the pants. I sew the sides together and iron them flat with my mini iron set to a medium setting. I cut out some of the back to make room for the wings and add the same yellow lining I put on the pants. Next, I cut 2 extra armholes. Now it's time to put her all together and take some photos. The shoes were taken from my clothing stock box and I painted them to match the lining along her outfit as well as her fingerless gloves. Thank you everyone for taking this journey with me. This project was a lot of firsts, and I don't think I did the greatest job, but pretty good for my first try. Thank you to Dollmotion for giving me and your other Patreons this amazing opportunity to be a part of your wonderful world. I look forward to seeing more of your work. If you want to see everyone else's amazing dolls, check out the showcase video on Dollmotion's channel. I'll link it below.
Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you have any suggestions of future videos you want to see, leave them in the comments below. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!